You know what I hate spending money on, Andrew?
Fishing rods?
No, I actually love that. But batteries, I hate it. They're so expensive.
That's true, but we just actually picked up a 24-volt lithium-ion battery from LeeTime, and I've been absolutely loving it. And we liked it so much that we actually have an affiliate link with LeeTime right now, and we have a discount code AOA10 for 10% off.
So make sure you click on the link in the podcast show notes. But now that that boring ad is over with, enjoy the rest of the show. Please, 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 please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Welcome, everyone, to another amazing episode of the Fishing Loons podcast, brought to you by me and Andrew, the average Ontario anglers. Hope you guys and girls are having a great June. Why is it so special this time of the year, Andrew? Like, what just happened? I'm so excited about.
Bass season just opened. There's a big thing.
Oh, if you're in zone 17.
Yeah.
If you're in one of the other zones, you may have to wait a week, but bass season's open.
Or if you're in other zones, you've been fishing it for like over a month now.
Yeah. Well, we haven't even talked about this. We'll get into this in a bit, but me and Andrew went bass fishing like at the end of May, like when it opened up in zone 11 and smashed a bunch of huge smallmouth, but we're going to talk about that later. But yeah, For all you people that live around where we live, bass season just opened. So have a great time. I hope you've been out already. Maybe you're listening to this on the way home. Hope you caught them. But this episode is actually a really fun one. This is an episode me and Andrew have been talking about for a long time because we wanted to do this because we always buy fishing rods. Andrew, like how many fishing rods do you currently own right now?
I would have to say between 20 and 30 conservatively. Probably 30.
Those are rookie numbers. Yeah. And again, me and Andrew have been buying rods for absolutely decades at this point. I probably have about 50 rods right now. I'm not counting ice fishing rods. They don't count because they're tiny.
Yes. As an aside, I am more of a tackle junkie than a rod, like, a rod and reel guy. So I only have like 20 to 30 rods, but don't get me started on how many lures I have.
Like he's like, I only have 25 to 30 rods.
I've got about a dozen tackle boxes full of lures. Not tackle trays, tackle boxes.
It's a problem when you're an angler, though, is you pick up stuff and accumulate stuff. And as me and Andrew are, we like to try different rods. Like we'll be like, oh, we like chatterbaits. We like to buy a chatterbait rod. So today we're actually going to be talking about a bunch of different combos that we have that we like. We're not going to go into every specific combo that you could use in Ontario for bass fishing, but we're going to kind of cover some bass combos. We're going to do a really cool thing where we're going to do one each of just regular combos that everyone should have, and then another rod that is one of our favorite ones to use, and then one that is an oddball, weird combo that probably no one else owns. So we're going to get into that. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be fun. And unfortunately, it may make you spend more money on a new fishing rod, but you can't blame us for that. But before we get into this, we have something very special, and it's something that is so special we do it every single episode. That is the interesting fishing fact. And to handle that, we have the man with the mustache and the beard and the Fishing Loons t-shirt, Andrew.
So I found this, I saw a video online and it got me on this roll of like researching this thing. I don't know if any of our listeners have seen it. I never saw it, but I've heard of, and I saw the trailer for Cocaine Bear. I was like,
I saw that.
It's like based on a true story. Like, yeah, absolutely not. The bear died in real life. It was real. The bear died. I'm sorry, bear. Like, okay, like, things on drugs is kind of like an interesting premise for movies and whatnot. But what if they did this in real life? I present to you cocaine salmon. In 2026, this year currently, researchers conducted a real scientific study involving Atlantic salmon and cocaine. This is a real scientific study.
And before we get into this, just know AOA does not condone doing drugs, so be safe, kids.
Yes, I'm laughing because we've never done this stuff. I'm like, I saw it in a movie once. So these scientists, they weren't trying to make like a new genre of like party salmon, anything like that. They were trying to answer a growing environmental question. What happens when human drug pollution ends up in the waterways? Believe it or not, it's a legitimate worldwide issue. Modern wastewater treatment plants, they're very good at removing some contaminants, but they're not perfect. So you can get traces of pharmaceuticals, caffeine, antidepressants, nicotine, even illegal drugs can survive the treatment and enter our rivers and lakes in extremely small amounts. Cocaine has been showing up in our waterways for years. So researchers from several major universities decided to study what happens when young Atlantic salmon are exposed to these substances in the wild. Now, the way they did it is kind of cool because you might think, oh, is this done in a lab or whatever like that? So they took 105 juvenile Atlantic salmon, divided them into 3 separate groups. The first was the control group. They were just essentially soaper designated drivers just swimming around. They wanted to see exactly what this batch of young salmon would do just on their own. The second group was exposed to cocaine. The third group was exposed to something called benzoylecgonine or something like that. It's the primary byproduct that the human body creates after cocaine is metabolized. So in other words, when cocaine breaks down in the human body, this is the main compound or one of them that eventually exits through the wastewater systems and enters the environment. So here's where the study gets interesting. The researchers didn't just dump a bunch of these chemicals into the tanks and be like, oh, what happens now? Instead, they implanted slow-release capsules into each of the salmon. So these capsules would release carefully measured amounts over a long period of time to simulate long-term environmental exposure. Then the fish were released into Lake Vättern in Sweden, and they were tracked using acoustic telemetry. So this means that they were wearing these tiny underwater tracking devices that could be seen how far they traveled, all their behavior, and again, not in a lab, not in an aquarium, but in an actual lake, a body of water where they're normally in. So this is a pretty cool and decisive study that was done to see how it actually does affect them. So what happened? The control group, they behaved exactly like they expected. They stayed relatively consistent in their movement patterns. They used predictable areas of the lake. They conserved energy efficiently and generally acted like normal young salmon, trying not to be lunch for a predatory fish. I know what you're thinking. What about the cocaine group?
Uh-oh.
So surprisingly, it was not a dramatic difference at first glance. They did show somewhat increased movement, slightly altered roaming behavior compared to the control group, but it wasn't like a chaotic, crazy high party, go nuts kind of thing these fish were doing. They weren't rocketing through the lake doing like barrel rolls like, Top Gun and stuff. So the researchers did note that there is some increased activity and wandering, but nothing earth-shattering. Now, at this point, the study was already interesting because it proved that even trace level of drug exposure did make some changes to these things. But here's the cool thing. With the third group, which is the blah, 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 the byproduct that humans release after ingesting cocaine themselves, things got crazy. So they traveled up to nearly twice as far as normal fish. Some dispersed over 12 kilometers farther across the lake than they expected. And unlike the cocaine groups, where effects were moderate, the byproduct group became increasingly active over time. The more prolonged the exposure, the more abnormal the movement patterns became. And this surprised researchers because the breakdown of the product was causing stronger behavioral effects than the original drug itself. So that did change how scientists and humans are thinking about these things in the waterway. It may not be the actual substance itself, but after it's ingested, the byproducts of the substance were actually having a more harmful effect, and they're just as, perhaps even more likely to be in the water supply. Movement patterns, again, this mainly looked at their movement patterns. But movement patterns for fish, especially, as we know, that is everything in their life. They have to move to find food. They have to move to stay safe. They move during different seasons. They have to move to breed. All these different things. They either move or don't move for energy conservation, so that affects their growth rates. All these things are based on a primary thing of movement that is a big telling sign. So if a salmon is swimming almost twice as far as normal, it may expose itself to more predators. It'll leave ideal feeding areas, migrate at the wrong time, and when they start behaving differently, that whole ecosystem, that species, is now at risk. I like this because the researchers in this article did state that the fish that they had released were not dangerous to eat. Just imagine catching that and be like, I got the tagged fish. Yay! I'm going to sell this down in Cuba. It wasn't the case. So they were safe. But I found this was a really cool study that was done. But yeah, this study kind of changed the way that scientists are looking at pollution and what they consider pollution in the waterways. So that was pretty cool.
That is cool. I remember reading an article a few months ago about them doing a study in the Niagara River because people were dumping medications down the toilet into the river, and they were finding trace amounts of like antidepressant medications inside of fish. So yeah, I mean, it happens. Like, that's how I thought when you first said like drugs in the water. It's like, oh, maybe people dumping in the water. But then I'm like, why would they dump good drugs in the water? So it's like, no, it's the after effects after you pee and crap them out. So that's even worse. Like, the drug affects two people now, the fish and the people. Well, fish aren't people, but two
I like
beings.
how you listed fishes first. It affects the fish and those people, but the fish.
Yeah, that's very interesting. That's a classic interesting fishing fact, because that is definitely a fact about fishing, and it's interesting. A+.
So next time I hook into a salmon, and you're like, why is it doing somersaults in the air? Like, it had some of that benzodiclomate 9 whatever junk in it.
Delicious. And yeah, just to say, if you haven't seen the movie Cocaine Bear, let's just say it ranked very lowly on Rotten Tomatoes. Don't waste your time. Yeah, anyway, that's good. So this episode, it's going to be fun because I like these episodes because they don't require a lot of research on me and Andrew's part. We kind of just get to explain to you some of the things that we love, which is certain combos and fishing combos. And again, me and Andrew have been fishing together for what? It's been 20 years?
Yeah,
more than 20 years.
More than that now.
Yeah, we've gotten to know each other's styles of fishing. And that's why we fish so well together, because we both have strengths. Andrew, everyone knows he's a finesse guy. I'm a power guy. And depending on what we fish for, sometimes, like the last trip we had, we'll talk about that quick. We went up to Zone 11, the Nipissing area, because that bass season opens the 3rd Saturday in May, which is crazy because down here in Zone 17, bass doesn't open till the 3rd Saturday in June. So it's like a month later. So we're out there fishing for smallmouth bass in shallow water. They're not spawning yet. They're not even close to spawning at that time. They're close, but they're not spawning. They're just cruising around. 5-pounders everywhere, 6-pounders, 4-pounders. Like, we lost count of how many 3 and 4s we caught. Andrew caught a beast. What was that?
5 pounds, 10 ounces. My new
Giant.
PB.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely check out our Instagram and see a picture of that thing. It's a toad. It's a toad, man. But the water was so clear up there. And for me, I'm not a huge finesse guy. Andrew's chucking all these little, spy baits and little stupid little baits, and he's smacking them on them, right?
My BFS put on a clinic. That first day, it wasn't as windy. That was prime BFS with her.
Yeah. So when it comes down to it, it's very interesting fishing with someone that is opposite of how you fish, because you can learn from them, they can learn from you, depending on what lake you fish on. And you're really going to see the difference. If we could do a video, which we couldn't do, where we showed all of our combos, you'd be like, yeah, that makes sense for Andrew. He has a lot of that. Or that makes sense for Jesse. He has a lot of that. But then we kind of get forced to buy other combos, because I'll see Andrew slamming them on a finesse stuff, and I'm like, oh, now I got to buy that finesse rod to chuck these little finesse baits. And then you end up accumulating, like Andrew said, 25 to 30 rods, or in my case, probably closer to 50 at this point. Of course, I worked at 2 tackle shops over the years, so the discounts were pretty insane. So that's why I have more than Andrew. But we're going to go through some combos. We're going to start off very briefly. This is kind of like fishing 101. If you're just getting into fishing, you may be overwhelmed. You look at the rods, it's like, oh, action and power and all these different lengths of rods and bait caster are spinning. What the heck do you buy? It is very overwhelming. It can be, for sure. Like if you go into like Sail or Gagnon Sports or Bass Pro Shops, they have thousands of fishing rods to choose from. And you may be like, what the heck? So we're going to kind of focus on bass this episode, because we're really, tuned in on bass today, Andrew. Like, this bass season could not come soon enough. Like oh man. Anyway, so let's talk very briefly before Andrew gets into the first combo about the difference between power and action. So oftentimes you'll hear someone say, oh, that's a medium power rod or a medium action rod, or it's a fast tip, or it's a slow parabolic bend. So all these things have meaning, and it's actually very easy to understand. So the rod's power, I'm just going to read this definition online because it says it better than I could. Fishing rod power is the rod's overall stiffness, or how much force it takes to bend it. A light power rod bends easily, while a heavy power rod takes more pressure to bend and has more backbone. power matters most when choosing the right rod for the right size of fish, line strength, and lure weight you plan to use. So again, where do the rod powers go from, Andrew, like realistically in fishing?
So you can have your ultralight to your heavy. Maybe extra heavy if you're talking about casting rods and stuff like that. But you can have essentially ultralight, light, medium light, which is a mix of the two, medium heavy, mix of the two, or heavy or extra heavy. So it's different ranges coming up, but that's essentially from ultralight to heavy is your range.
And those are the most common ones. Since we're talking about bass, we're going to kind of keep it kind of normal. We're not going to go anything crazy.
Mm-hmm. And just going to say as well, this is specifically for spinning rods and casting rods. Fly rods, they use different, form of measurement. They call it by weight. We're not going to talk about that. Carp rods are, how much pound test. Like, we don't want to talk about that. Right now, we're talking about your regular Canadian angler doing his, bass fishing in the summer at the cottage. You're going to be using one of these, powers, rod powers.
Exactly. We don't talk about fly fishing. We did that podcast with SoFly guys. That was it. No more fly fishing. Boring. Just kidding. It's okay. That was actually a really good episode. If you haven't listened to it, definitely listen to that one. So that's the rod power. Now, this is the confusing part, the rod action. Because I know a lot of people will say, they'll kind of mix them up. Even professionals, I'll notice when you're watching a fishing show, they'll be like, oh, this is a heavy action rod. It's like, heavy action isn't a thing. Medium action isn't a thing. That's the power. Mm-hmm. The action is different. So the action is where the rod bends when pressure is applied. So fast action rods bend mostly near the tip. Moderate action rods bend further down by the blank. And slow action rods, like a glass rod, which I'm sure Andrew's going to talk about later, they bend deeper into the blank. So the most common actions you're going to have is extra fast. And that is where the top quarter of the rod bends before it loads into its full power. Mm-hmm. Then you have fast action, which is more of like a third. Then you have moderate fast or regular. Some companies call it regular, like Daiwa calls it regular. Everyone else calls it moderate fast. And that's more like just almost half of the rod will bend when it's loaded up. Then you have moderate or slow. And moderate literally bends all the way down. You're thinking a glass rod or a chatterbait
Think of
rod.
An ugly stick.
Yeah, crankbait
the commercial
rod.
of an ugly stick, that's like...
Yeah. And like a moderate rod or a slow rod, moderate's maybe slightly more beefy than a slow rod, but they will bend when they're loaded almost down to the handle. And there are different purposes for these different actions. We'll go over those briefly. As we're going through, we'll go through them when we're talking about the rods, but they all have different reasons for having them. But don't think for a second that you're like, oh man, there's so many of these different rods I need for specific things. There are these things called general purpose rods, and they are the average angler's best friend because they do a lot of things. They don't do everything perfectly, but they do everything well. So we're going to talk first about those. So Andrew has probably the first combo most people ever buy. And if you don't have this combo, I don't know what to say to you. You need one of these because it does everything. So what is that combo?
This is actually, I'm going to preface this with, this is my favorite combo I've ever owned.
Ooh.
This is also the first combo I ever spent decent money on growing up. I've had this exact combo for about 17 years now. Bought it in 2009. This is a St. Croix Mojo bass fishing rod. It's a 6/8 medium spinning rod, extra fast action. So that means that it has some backbone, so it can hold it a fair bit. Great for bass fishing and stuff like that, just not in heavy weeds. And the tip, because it's extra fast, when you put pressure on just the tip, it's really just the first 3 guides, maybe down to the 4th, that really starts to bend. Even when fighting a fish, you don't really get a bend a bit back of this back half of the rod. And that's because of that extra fast action. The medium power, see, like I said, it's great for bass. I have in the past targeted pike, but I wouldn't be going for like trophy pike or casting big baits like I do nowadays for them using this rod. But it's a great all-around purpose. A lot of the times on the rods, they'll say, like this one does, the line it's rated for, so 6 to 12 pound, 3/16 ounce to 5/8 ounce. That's the lure weight that this rod is designed to cast. Have I cast heavier stuff? Absolutely. But you do have to be careful that you're not going to really try and cast hard with it. You can be at risk of snapping that rod if you're exceeding those limitations. Same thing with line. It's a 6 to 12 pound line. For the longest time, I put on a 30-pound braid on this thing because I was using it for multi-species, going for pike, but I would have to make sure that if I ever cranked down my drag on this spinning reel and just tried to like high stick a fish into the boat, my rod would have snapped. So there are recommendations on the rod often printed for what it should be used for. But yeah, this thing is a 6/8 medium. I got this at the Sportsman show when it first came out. I love this rod. And this reel is still butter smooth. Oh, I was hitting my headphone jack.
It's like butter smooth. Click, 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 click.
Yeah. But this is the Shimano Stradic. This is a 2500 spinning reel. I think at the time the reel was $250, and I think the rod was like 160, 180, I think, when it came out. And so to spend, with taxes, I'm almost around $500, well over $400 on the cost of it. That was a lot when I made $20 a week. So for me, I saved up. I knew exactly what I wanted. And the funny thing is, this is actually one of those rods where I definitely use it as a multi-purpose fish for anything kind of rod, because this was my first nice combo that I ever bought myself, but also the only combo that I had for about the next 7 years. I used it for everything.
Yeah.
And what I didn't know when I first bought it is it says at the back here, Mojo Bass or St. Croix, wacky style. So this is when they really kind of started having specific technique rods, and that's why you have the split grip on the butt is very common for that wacky style or finesse style spinning rods. I didn't fish a wacky style like a Senko hooked in the middle. I didn't fish it on this rod. Probably 5 years later was the first time I ever did. I didn't even know about wacky style. So if you're looking for a rod, the reason why I got this one at the time is I felt it, push a tip lightly against the ground at the show. I was like, this feels like what I wanted. This is strong enough for me to cast the lures that I want to cast, my big spinners, my crankbaits, all that stuff. I know it will cast it well. It was a bit longer. A lot of the rods at the time were like 6'6". Like my rod before this was only 6 foot long. That was very common. Or a 5'5". Like that was rods back then. Mm-hmm. Nowadays, this is so much shorter. I'm like 6'8", so short. It's not even 7 feet long.
Yeah.
But yeah, this thing has come with me. I even use this reel again this year. Like this reel goes on multiple rods now, but I still break out this rod every like a few times a year. This is still such a great general purpose, just medium action spinning rod.
Medium action.
Sorry, medium power. Power. See? Even the pros mess it up.
And
medium
the fools
power.
Too.
This is an extra fast action. So you don't need the extra fast. Fast action, anything will suit. Also be very general purpose, even at that. Mm-hmm. But this thing is, like I said, still one of my... It's my baby. This is my first good combo.
I've seen Andrew whack
still love it.
Tons of fish on that over the years.
Yeah, my first 5-pound smallmouth came on this rod. I'm trying to think what else I've caught on it. Like besides every fish I ever caught for the first 5 to 10 years of my taking fishing seriously as a teenager, it caught everything for me. I've caught carp on that rod, pike. I've caught muskie on that rod.
You tried catching salmon on it once.
I did catch a salmon on it.
Did you?
Yes. Yeah, I caught a small jack on that rod. And then, so it has caught me every species I've pretty much ever caught. It's done that. I've caught lake trout on it in the spring. I've gone trout fishing in it in creeks. So I've caught rainbows. I've caught browns. I've caught brookies. It's done. Like I said, it's a do everything rod. It is the most versatile rod, I would say, for Canadian waters. I would recommend this is something, if you only could have one, this is what I'd recommend.
Yeah. I'd probably go fast action, not extra fast. But yeah. And it's true that it's a slightly shorter rod. And most rods nowadays, it's almost hard to find anything under 7 feet. But I do have a few shorter rods that I do like for walleye fishing too. I have a 6'9" medium light. It's great. But just to add to that medium power spinning rod thing, I'd say if you get anything between, 6'8" up to 7'2", medium power, fast action, you can do anything with that rod. Like smallmouth, walleye, pike.
You can fish your finesse stuff. You can drop shot on that rod. You can fish a Senko with a light jig head on it. Like you can toss a small paddle tail, or you can start throwing an Aglia number 4. Like you can do anything in that range. You can throw a deep diving jerkbait. I can fish. This is a great jerkbait rod, honestly. It is. That's what I normally use it for now is jerkbaits.
That extra fast tip is what you want for a jerkbait.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So now if you are going to go slightly heavier and you want a bait caster, the other combo that we recommend all the time, if you listen to any of our podcasts before, we always say you want a medium power fast action spinning rod and you want a medium heavy fast action bait casting rod. So I'm going to talk about the bait casting rod and here it is. I'm trying not to smack anything with it. This one here is one of my medium heavy bait casting rods. I was actually looking through my rod rack. I have 5 medium heavy bait casting rods.
I do too. I've got 5 of them as well.
They're so versatile. You can use them for tons of things. Like, so say me and Andrew are going bass fishing in his boat and we bring like 5-6 rods each. I'm probably going to have 3 medium heavy bait casting rods with different things on them because they're so versatile. This particular one, just to describe it, it is one of mine. This is a Daiwa Tatula Elite 7'5", so it's a longer one, 7'5", medium heavy, fast action. It's a great rod. It's a bit longer. It has full cork, and then I have rigged on that new Daiwa Tatula SV 100, just a regular 100 size bait casting reel. I got 15-pound fluorocarbon on this. I have a theory on medium heavy bait casting rods, and I feel like some of them are like medium heavy pluses, and some of them are medium heavy. So like this particular one, it says it's a soft stick bait football jig head rod. And I hate when they put the stupid, lure recommendations on the rod because I watched, this is the Corey Johnson signature series rod. I mean, Corey Johnson's a great angler, but I watched a video of him using this rod and he's like, yeah, I use it for everything. Chatterbaits, football jig. He just named all these lures. He's like, it's a multi-purpose rod. So just call it a multi-purpose rod. You can chuck anything in this. I have used this rod for everything. Chatterbaits, flipping, like light duty flipping, free rigs, top waters, anything. Like it works. It's a great rod. Don't look at the stupid recommendation like Andrew's wacky rod. He didn't even know what a wacky rig was at the time. Like don't, just use the rod. My theory is some medium heavy rods are a little bit more beefy than others. So for example, this particular one, I usually have fluorocarbon on it. But I have another St. Croix medium heavy. It's called the Warhorse. It's rated up to 65-pound braid. It says that right on it. This one says it's rated up to 16-pound line. That's it. 16-pound fluorocarbon. The other one's rated at 65-pound line. It is a phenomenal light-duty frog rod or flippin' rod. And I got that tip from Dave Mercer last year when we talked to him about flippin'. He said, I don't use a heavy. I use a medium heavy. Just beefy medium heavy with 65-pound braid or 50-pound braid on it. So I started doing that. It's amazing. Just the flex on it. The rod still handles it. Graphite now is so strong. You can load them up pretty heavy and not have to worry about breaking it off. So check out rod reviews before you buy one. Decide what you want to do with your medium heavy first. If you're like, you know what, I might chuck frogs or I might not. It depends on what kind of rod you want. But a medium heavy rod, Andrew, you have 4 or 5 of them. What do you use your medium heavies for?
So my medium heavies, so I use them from anything from tossing crankbaits, fishing like swim baits and stuff like that, like small paddle tails and whatnot, small glide baits even. I'll fish those. Jerk baits. I love fishing jerk baits on it. You get one that's a bit lighter, but has like that just, still a soft tip, but kind of a stiff backbone. So kind of a extra fast bait caster. They can even fish jerk baits well, which I like.
That's what Kevin Van Dam uses. Yeah. He's a medium heavy bait caster for jerk baits.
But yeah, everything. And then talking about, even fishing cover. Yeah. Like you can still fish as long as it's not like super, super thick, but you can fish in weeds just as long as they're not, you're not going to fish around bulrushes maybe, or your slop. Yeah. But if you want to toss on a chatterbait, what is it? Spinnerbait through some rice. Absolutely. I'd use a medium heavy. That's fantastic. If you want to flip just around some docks, like you're not pulling it through like super dense weed, just flipping it around under docks or around timber, medium heavy is fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's great. And when you're choosing a medium heavy, as we talked before, sometimes there'll be fast action. Sometimes there'll be extra fast action. Sometimes there'll be moderate fast action. I have 4 or 5 medium heavy rods and they're all slightly different. So I have an extra fast action medium heavy rod. So only just the tip of it, like the first few inches bends. And the reason you'd want a rod like that is if you are fishing a bait that is bottom contact. And it's usually the way I think is if you're reeling your bait in, like a spinnerbait, a crankbait, a chatterbait, you want a rod that's more soft. Okay. If you are dragging something on the bottom, you want the most sensitivity possible. You want an extra fast rod. That extra fast rod is very you'll watch the tip. The tip is like kind of floppy and the rest of the rod is stiff. So you'll just see the tip like moving as it pops over rocks. You can feel every little hop.
You can feel, when like the water puts like those ripples in the sand, if you drag a jig across that, you'll see the tip like on each of those ripples move. Like not even hard structure.
Yeah. No, it's super sensitive. Now, you may think, well, why wouldn't you want that all the time? Well, there are disadvantages to an extra fast rod because an extra fast rod, like we mentioned, it doesn't really load up very well. It's very sensitive, but it's very stiff and crisp, right? So when you hook a fish, you don't have that big parabolic, shock absorber of a rod when you're reeling in a fish. That's why oftentimes guys that fish crankbaits, jerkbaits, stuff with treble hooks or chatterbaits, they like a rod that has more flex to it. So when the fish is thrashing around and jumping, the rod's just like a shock absorber and you lose a lot less fish. So it's kind of like you got to find the right rod for what you're doing. If you're fishing, on the bottom contact jigs, Texas rigs, deep water, dragging stuff on the bottom, an extra fast is probably your best bet. But if you're fishing like a chatterbait, a buzzbait, something that you retrieve, you might want something that's fast or even moderate fast action. So be choosy when you do that. And then when it comes to line, I have fluorocarbon on this. My general rule is a lot of people will be like, I just throw braid on and that's fine. That's kind of Andrew's style. I've been trying to get him into using fluorocarbon and he has a little bit more. Fluorocarbon has stretch. Now you may think that's bad. You don't want stretch. Braid doesn't stretch. I do want stretch. 100% I want stretch. Now fluorocarbon sinks, which helps my bait get down deeper depending on what I'm fishing. But when I hook a good fish, I'm a slackline hook setter, which is bad. I want some forgiveness when I set the hook because I have I've snapped braided line when I set the hook multiple times. Like Andrew's seen it.
50-pound braid. I've seen him snap on a hook set.
No problem. I'll slackline hook set. So for me personally, it's taken me years and a lot of rod combinations to figure out how I can hook the most fish. And for me, it's with a fast action rod with fluorocarbon because the stretch and the bend of the rod really saves me so much. Andrew's a little more chill, so he can get away with using braid. But usually the way I go is fluorocarbon if I'm reeling in not around weeds, like thick weeds. And if I'm going into the thick stuff, I'll put on braid 100% of the time. But I'd say if I could only pick one line for everything, 30-pound braid for a medium heavy. 30-pound braid, I can do almost everything with that. If I'm going to fish heavier cover, I'll jump up to 40. And if I have to go to 50, I'm going to go to a heavier rod. But yeah, you need multiple. Well, this is bad advice. So you need multiple of these combos, but you should at least own one of these combos and go forward from there. And yeah, it's great.
And if you have, and again, if you take those first two that we talked about, you can do the majority of fishing that Ontario or Canada or the northern states have to offer. You can do it with those two rods.
I think like 90%.
Yeah. Only like pretty much very specialized stuff you can't do with those. So with a spinning rod, you can do finesse stuff. If it's the only rod you have, I'd recommend getting this if you only have one rod. Or a softer, medium heavy, and you can still do kind of everything with it. You can do finesse stuff. Like I said, you can cast what you can cast on a BFS, you can still cast on a medium action spinning rod.
Medium what?
Medium power. But as soon as you want to cast anything heavier, if you want to start doing topwaters, you want to fish a frog that has those beefier hooks, this spinning rod is likely not going to be able to set those hooks in. There's like 3/0, 4/0 hooks that are on some of those baits. So if you could have two rods, those are the two that we recommend, just because you can do everything from finesse up to fishing like larger topwater baits, flipping, Texas rig baits. You can do everything with just those two rods. And then if you have them both in the boat with you, you can have a couple ready to go. Have your bait caster ready to go. And if you get a blow up and you miss the fish, then you have your spinning rod with a wacky rig on it. And you cast it out and you do your own 1-2 punch.
Yeah, 100%. I think those are the two rods I'd recommend everyone start with. If you don't have those two rods, definitely pick up those because you can do absolutely anything with them. And like Andrew said, like with a spinning rod, you can use it for anything. Like you could technically go out and it's a little heavy for crappie or for stream trout, but you can do it. It's a little light for pike, but you can do it. So there's no rules in fishing.
Well, there is. It's called the fishing regulations, and there are rules in fishing.
No rules to what gear you can use. Well, there is. You can't use nets. I'm just kidding. All right. So those are the two combos that we recommend to everyone. You probably already own them if you're listening to this. But the next combo is going to be the combos that are our favorite. Some, not our complete favorites, but like a rod combo that we really love to use. So Andrew, why don't you go first? What's a combo you love?
The next two kind of fit into both categories of something I love, but also something that's a bit like oddball or very specific. Something I love to use, and this is a new purchase for me. This is the new St. Croix glass. No, it's not a new rod, but it's new to me. I just bought it earlier this year, and I've got that paired up with Daiwa SV 150, and that thing is just a nice smooth reel. Just wanted something that I can casually cast my crankbaits and chatterbaits with. That's pretty much what I use this for. And that's what its intended purpose is. This is a 7.2 heavy power, moderate action. So just like we were talking before, you can actually flex it
Yeah.
Like, that's right. It'll bend right down to the handle. If you get a big bass on, this thing is just folded over. It's amazing. It's rated for a 1/2 ounce to 1 3/8 ounce. So you can do anything with this. But again, because of its very moderate action, the tip bends very easily all the way down to the butt of the rod. This thing will bend. So because of that, like Jesse was saying before, this isn't really a do-it-all rod. This is primarily going to be most useful for something where it's a cast and reel, so crankbaits and chatterbaits, things like that. The benefit that you get with it, especially with a full glass rod, is as soon as you set the hook and you're fighting a fish, like this thing has so much flex and bend on it that you just don't lose fish. They have such a hard time throwing the hook because every time, like essentially when a fish is shaking its head, you have the tip of that rod, so it's loaded with a fish and it shakes. Its head is going side to side. But that allows it to keep tension on that line the entire time as its head is shaking because that rod has all that flexibility and bend to keep the line itself tight. So it's not getting that leverage, it's not getting a loose line for that 1/2 second and throwing that hook. Mm-hmm. So this thing is an absolute blast when I was using it. We did our pre-spawn fishing trip in zone 20 and I caught 100 fish, almost all of them on this rod. Majority of them I would say on this rod because the chatterbait was killing it. But this thing has become my new favorite rod, and I bring it everywhere. If I'm going pike fishing, I'm like, I'm going to try and catch a pike on, well, they hit chatterbaits all the time, but I'll start casting crankbaits. I'm like, walleye fishing, they might bite crankbaits today, so I'll bring this. Bass fishing, guess what? Chatterbait and crankbaits, I'm fishing this. So this is going to be with me now that bass season is open. This is coming with me every single day of bass season that I'm fishing. This is pretty much going to be beside me or in my hand.
Yeah, and I'm glad that Andrew finally got a glass rod because I have multiple glass rods for years, and I always said to Andrew, I'm like, I know you'd love it. You should get one. I know you'd love it because he likes throwing chatterbaits. He always has a chatterbait on, and he loves crankbaits, and he's always like, oh yeah, blah, blah, blah. Finally, he got one, and he's like, the first fish, he's like, I love this. Like, it's one of those moments where I was like, I told you so, you moron.
Yeah. And it's one of those things too, like fishing a chatterbait, if you've ever done it before, you'll feel the vibration through the rod like tremendously, especially if you're fishing braid and especially if you're using like an extra fast spinning rod or bait caster. Like you will really feel the vibration of that and you'll know when it stops working. This thing here, and the reason why it's kind of fun, and some people may not like it, but the reason why I find it really fun is I'll just be reeling and you can feel some vibration, but it is so muted. And then by the time you feel something, it's like, oh, I don't know if that's a weed or a fish hit. So you just try and like reef back in the rod to just rip it free from each of the weeds or set the hook. And it's just fun to find out what it is. Does it pull back or not? And then you know. But if it's a fish there, chances are I'm landing that fish. I love this thing. I love the color of it too.
Oh, it's a gorgeous butterscotch.
Yeah.
Beautiful. That's honestly, in my opinion, one of the best looking fishing rods on the market right now.
I think so too. Everyone does this like black. I'm like, it's cool, but unless you're 6 years old like I am, like there are things cooler colors than black sometimes. Yeah.
And that one is the Rip and Chatter, which is a very popular St. Croix model. I actually have the graphite version of that, which is instead of it being glass, because glass is naturally very moderate. They have a Rip and Chatter in the Victory series that is made of graphite. It has a graphite mixture, but they make the graphite moderate action. So it bends just like that rod, except it weighs half as much because glass is super heavy. But I will say this one thing, because I have glass rods too. There's something special about glass. Like they can replicate the way the rod bends with graphite, but it doesn't feel the same. And I can't describe it. And I don't think anyone can because no one has been able to describe it to me. It's just something is special about glass. So if you're someone that chucks chatterbaits a lot like Andrew, and you should because chatterbaits catch a lot of fish, definitely look into getting a glass rod, or if you're going to get something that's graphite, that's cool too, but glass is way cooler. Now, I will add this one caution. If you fish chatterbaits in a very weedy lake, a glass rod is not the best, because if you have to snap your chatterbait through weeds, it's not the best for it. A regular, medium, heavy, fast action rod like we just talked about, that will do just fine. But if you can get away with it, glass is the way to go. It's so fun. So fun. Glass is fun, right, Andrew? Okay, the next combo is something that I love doing. Andrew loves doing it too. It's fun, and if you do it properly and the fish cooperate, you will get to hear one of the best noises in fishing. Now, what is that, Andrew? Do you know what I'm talking about?
A slackline hook set.
You know when you set the hook in weeds on braid and you hear, That like the
Yes.
line just ding. Oh, I love it when you're flipping. This is my flipping rod. And also, I counted. I have 4 heavy power fast action, or not all fast action. I have 4 heavy power bait casting rods because I grew up fishing slop and weeds. That's where my dad and me fished. We fished, some of the shallow lakes and rivers in the Kawarthas that are just lily pads, slop, cheese, all that crap, right? And I finally got my realistic dream flipping combo. This particular rod was actually blessed by Jay Siemens himself. I bought it at sale when he was there. He blessed it, held it up to the sky and kissed it. And I'm not sure if it helped. I have caught some fish on it, but I haven't caught any big ones, so I don't know.
I was going to say, it's funny you bring that up of having not so much the rod being blessed, but the fact of, has it caught any big ones? It's funny because Jess and I will often toy with the idea, like, we're not superstitious at all, but we always joke around where if you don't catch a fish on the first time using the rod's cursed.
It's cursed.
And it almost seems like that sometimes because it'll be like, I haven't caught anything on it. And then you're 7 trips in, you're like, I can't catch on this rod. Like, something's wrong. And I was really happy when I was fishing this glass rod that I was talking about. The second cast, I hit the biggest fish of the day. I think it was 3 pounds, 6 ounce. I think largemouth bass.
I don't know. We didn't weigh it.
All right. I don't know. It was over 3 pounds.
Yeah.
Just by looking at it. So that was my big fish of the day. Came on the second cast. So it was, which another thing is they claim is superstitious is you don't want to catch a fish in the first cast. So really it was the best thing that could have happened.
It's true. So anyway, this is a flipping stick. I know we've all heard that if you're talking about heavy cover bass fishing, they'll say a flipping stick, just a big, meat stick, slop stick, whatever. Generally, it's going to be a heavy power rod. Now, this particular one is a moderate fast, which I prefer when I'm flipping. I don't like a rod that's too stiff. I like the rod to be able to load up because oftentimes I'm setting the hook through a thick mat of lily pads and cheese and all that disgusting ooze and green fuzz on top of the water. I find a moderate fast action rod, it loads up a bit better when you're pitching baits. Say you're pitching like a 3/4 ounce Texas rig, or you're punching like a 1 ounce weight even. That slightly softer tip kind of loads and it bounces and loads the rod as you pitch.
Uh-huh.
I find the experience just a little more fun. And then when you set the hook too on a fish, when you hook a good one, that rod is a good bend. It's just nice. It's like, whee! It's awesome. I love it. But the reel that I have paired on that, I have a Shimano Curado classic reel. I've had this one for quite a while. I have 50-pound braid on it, and I have a fast gear ratio. This is the 8:5-1 or something like that. It's fast. I know a lot of people say that, you shouldn't use a super fast reel when you're flipping because you lose torque. I don't know. I've used 7s, I've used 8s, I've used 9s. I find if you buy a good quality reel, the gear ratio range is just fine. In fact, I have this reel is my braid reel, and then I also have a reel. This is the Daiwa Tatula pitch and flip. This one has 20-pound fluorocarbon on it. So if I'm fishing around really thick stuff, I'm going to have braid on it. But if I'm flipping around like timber, docks, stuff like that, I will use 20-pound fluorocarbon. Now, the cool thing about a flipping stick is it is kind of multi-purpose. And if you're someone that likes chucking slightly bigger baits for bass, you may think, I need a swim bait rod, or I need this rod or something to throw big stuff. You don't really, because a flipping stick, it is designed to fish heavy cover and big weights. This particular rod, it says it can handle line up to 65-pound line. And, you can easily throw baits 1.5 ounces on this. So if you're looking to get into throwing like mag drafts, like a 6-inch swim bait, or slightly small glide baits, like 6-inch glide baits, this rod easily handles it, no problem. It may not be the best for it, but it is pretty dang good. I've caught many a pike, even muskie, big bass on flipping sticks using non-flipping techniques. So you don't have to be like, it says it's for flipping, I can only flip with it. No, it's a heavy power rod. You can chuck anything you want on it. I use this for pike all the time.
It can also be used for even like frog fishing. If you don't have a rod that's suitable, it's not as ideal. Again, it doesn't have the same perhaps bend on it and as some, but that one there is a more moderate bend, so it does work well.
Yeah.
But you can fish those like big, double 4/0 hooks on a hollow body frog and still fish it with that rod as well. So it can, if you have if you'd like to fish heavier cover, heavy slop, stuff like that, that's a great option to be able to do both subsurface and surface baits in that condition.
Absolutely. Yeah. Frogs for sure. I prefer a slightly shorter frog rod myself, but you definitely could throw frogs on this. And then I will give one tip. If you are getting a flipping stick, if you fish heavy cover and you're like, this is a rod I need. Of all the rods to spend slightly more money on, if you can, a flipping stick is one of those rods where if you can spend a little more money on it, get the lightest one you can, because they are big, chunky, beefy, unbalanced rods in general. I fished with a cheap one for many years, and it was heavy, heavy, heavy. And you'd get so fatigued. It's not balanced. I finally got myself a good one. It makes a huge difference. If it's something you do all the time, 100%. Spend the extra few bucks, save up an extra year, spend the next year fishing the heavy one and save your pennies and get one really nice. And if you get a nice one, like Andrew said, that St. Croix that he had, it's 17 years old. I have St. Croix rods that are well over 20 years old. They have a great warranty. They're great rods. And again, we're not sponsored by St. Croix or anything. We love their rods. I have about 20 of them, but buy from a reputable brand. Everyone makes good rods now. Like we were at the fishing show the other day or a few months ago, and we're like looking like Shimano makes great rods, St. Croix makes great rods, Daiwa, amazing. Even 13 Fishing, some of the rods we picked up, like, oh, this is nice. Fenwick, we picked up some of the Fenwick rods, like these are really nice for $150.
As a little aside, so my first good quality based bait casting rod, when I got it, I had actually bought it used off of Jesse. I bought the Fuego reel, Daiwa Fuego bait casting reel, and that actually could cast as opposed to my old piece of junk one that I got for $60 as a combined combo. They were bad. Nowadays, you can get a decent bait caster for even the cheap ones you can still cast with, which is nice. But I also have a Fenwick HMG.
Yep.
Medium heavy, 7 foot. Like it's the general purpose do it all rod. And that's, I think he gave me the rod actually, because I didn't have a bait casting combo at all. So I think
someone gave it to me and I was like, I won't use it. So I gave it to Andrew because his rod was like trash. I felt bad for him.
So I still have that rod. I still use it. It's that one itself is a little bit, or it's a moderate fast bend. So it's a bit softer than I normally use for like the general purpose. It's kind of like a little bit on the lighter side for what I want to do with it, but it still has its like use in my repertoire. So I still use that rod still as my first bait casting rod.
Can I have it back?
No. I like it.
I'm never giving
Andrew
Andrew
a
a
bait casting rod that fits that niche of bait casting rod for me.
Because Andrew has 30 rods and he can't find another rod to replace it. That's how good of a rod it is for $100. But anyway, yeah. So my one thing I would say, if you're looking to get a flipping stick or a heavy cover rod, the length matters. So if you fish from a kayak or a canoe or a small boat, a 7.5 foot rod may not be the best choice for you, especially if you're not very tall. Fishing rod length has to do with a lot of factors, but say you're 6 feet tall, you may be able to handle a 7'6" rod, or say you're even taller than that, you're 6'6". That may feel even short to you, but say you're 5'6", that 7'6" rod, it's not going to work as good. You're going to be too close to the water. Things are not going to be working properly for the length of it. Get something shorter. No worries. It's not going to be a big deal. 7'3". I have a 7'3" St. Croix flipping rod as well. Literally the same rod. It's just 3 inches shorter in the Victory line. And when I'm in my canoe or a small boat, I prefer that rod. It's shorter. It's easier to make pitches with, and it has just as much power. You just lose 3 inches off the tip, but it makes a big difference. Now, don't think that 1 or 2 inches will make a difference, but 3 or 4 or 5 inches on a rod definitely can make a difference in the ability to fish it properly. So if you're in a smaller boat, even a 7 foot rod, 7'2", 7'3", that's where I max it out. When you're in a bigger boat like Andrew's boat, you're standing so high above the water. The longer rod, you don't even feel it. So you can get away with it. It gives you a little more leverage, a little farther cast, but make sure you put that in consideration when you're picking a rod, especially, depending if you're fishing from a boat, you're fishing from shore, you're fishing from the top of a pier, who knows? It's all going to be different.
Even landing a fish, like talking about working a rod, yes, especially jerk baits. If you trying to work a jerk bait with a rod that's too long, is really annoying.
Yeah, you hit the water.
Yeah, but even landing a fish, you maybe, if you get a really long rod and like you said, you're fishing from a kayak or a canoe and you're trying to, lip that bass and you have that rod and you're holding it back here to try and get that fish close enough to you to lip it, I pretty much guarantee you're high sticking that fish, which means it's really, the rod tip is taking the whole brunt of that weight and that, one bad head shake, you could snap your rod.
Yeah.
So if you can, getting a rod that's suited for what you need it to do is going to also help that rod even last longer.
Absolutely. Yeah, because when I worked at the tackle shop, I tell you, a lot of people would bring in rods that broke and were defective, but they're always broken in the same place when they high stick it or they slam it in their trunk. Rods are not designed to bend just in the tip backwards. That's not how it works. Any rod, even a $900 rod, will snap quickly if you do that. So be very, especially if you buy yourself a nice rod, you're like, you know what, maybe you're going to spend $100 on a rod and that's the best rod you've ever bought. Believe me, a $100 rod is a huge upgrade from a $50 rod. Protect that
Absolutely.
rod,
If you go pick up like a Sojourn, which is a classic Shimano rod, and then you, even to the Claris now, you pick up a Claris, you're like, there's a difference between those two.
Yeah. yeah, just protect your rods. Speaking of protecting your rods, we're going to go into, I'll just talk about it right now. Okay. I'll forget if I say that, but we actually picked up a bunch of these rod gloves. Now, I know everyone has the standard, what are those, like mesh ones that you get at the
It's
store?
the same thing that people put like, I don't know, like kumquats and mangoes in the grocery store.
Yeah.
It's like plastic, or like a wine bottle and like a plastic sleeve.
Yeah, the plastic sleeve ones are fine.
Like I still have a bunch. That's what I used for the longest time because there's the cheap things out there. And if you don't have anything, they can still help to prevent tangles and stuff if you're transporting multiple rods and stuff. They are still effective for that.
They don't really protect your rod. Like people are like, oh, what if I slam the rod in my door? These aren't going to protect your rod. Rod protectors aren't for that. They're to protect the rod, the guides, the line going through so that your rods don't get tangled together and get scratched. Now, you may not worry about that if you're like, oh, my rod's $70, I don't care about it. But if you have any brand of rod, any price point, and you want to take care of it, even if it's a budget rod, this at the minimum should be on your rod when you're traveling with it. These are I don't even know what they're called. They're just like the mesh rod protectors.
Yeah, rod sleeve, whatever.
Yeah.
But even just to Jesse's point, like when you're transporting it, if you are fishing if you're driving in your car, like Jesse and I have done for years, and you have to slide it through like the front door because you got a one piece and you're sliding it into the back and you're setting it down, all these things. Then you go to pull it out and all of a sudden your line gets caught on that little clip on the side of the headrest or something and then snaps off a guide. That little sleeve that's on there will prevent that excess line from hanging out, or prevent that little guide from getting caught in that little crevice in the back of the seat in the back end. Like that can save you from a bad day. Just having those little things, and it can prevent those tangles, especially with multiple rods, preventing all the line tangling together and trying to separate and pull off guides and stuff. So yeah, it's useful.
It saves a headache for sure. But anyway, we've been using those ones for years. Whenever I buy a rod, I'd always pick one up. Usually, if you go to the tackle shop, sometimes they'll give them to you for free if you buy a nice rod. But they're like $7-8, like whatever. It's like buy a rod, buy the rod sleeve, and you're good. But what we started trying this year is we actually picked up a few of the Rod Glove Tournament Series. Now this is a full neoprene sleeve, and they're nice because on those other mesh ones, the guides will pop through them sometimes. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't like that.
Or hooks will get really, if you leave a hook on and the hook gets through, it's like,
Yeah. These ones are nice because they're full, I think it's like neoprene, but they cover the whole rod. They're nice and spacious. This is the spinning rod model, so it's a bit bigger. But then it also has this like elastic strap here that it straps onto the reel handle so the thing can't come off when you're not using it. And they're not that expensive. I think they're like $10-12, something like that. I forget how much.
Yeah, I think they're about 15. They're usually about double, but you get them on sale sometimes for $10.
Yeah,
if they go on sale, and absolutely, that's a steal. Go pick some up.
I picked up 3, and I was like, okay, this is cool. They offer a lot more protection than the mesh ones, in my opinion. They look really nice too, and it's the kind of thing, buy once, cry once. You're gonna have these for the rest of your fishing life. I know you're gonna be like, oh man, I wore out my rod sleeve. Like, no, it doesn't happen, right? But that's another cool thing. The Rod Glove is a great company. They make all kinds of stuff. They make reel covers too. Picked up a few of those too, because again, if you put your rods in, say, the back of your truck or in your car, and you have a nice bait casting reel or spinning reel, you don't want it to be like rubbing against anything, getting scratches. I have a bunch of reels that just have like reel rash just from like inside of my car. I'm like, oh man, I don't really care. The fish don't care. But yeah, so maybe you have gear that you want to take care of. Spending $10 on that, spending $15 on a rod sleeve, long term, you'll save money. And you look cool at the boat ramp, just like whipping around like a lightsaber. Andrew's done that. We both have. I got red, he got green. Like, I see you. I see your Schwartz is as big as mine. Spaceballs quote. Anyway, so those are 4 combos that I feel like if you have those 4 combos, you're going to have a fun time in Ontario bass fishing. Now we're going to talk about the last 2 combos. And the last 2 combos are oddball combos. Not really odd. There's just, I think mine is more odd, but Andrew's is more like specialty. I think if you're using the one. So why don't you go first? This is a specialty combo that we both own, and I highly recommend it.
So this one here. Yeah, this is my swim bait rod. This is a Daiwa Kage. This is 7'6", and they don't print everything on this rod, but it's a heavy action or heavy power, regular action. So it's that kind of moderate fast. So it does have a pretty good bend down the hole, or about half the length of the rod. It's rated for between 15 to 30 pound line, but again, I throw 50-pound braid on this thing without worry. It's rated for lure weight from 3/8 to 1.5 ounces, and it's a one piece as well. So this thing, 7'9", like it's a long rod, and it's a nice long butt, which is fantastic for when you're working glide bait or like a large swim bait, stuff like that. And I have that paired up with a Curado 200, Shimano Curado with 7.4 to 1. And this is my first Curado reel. I've been really, really happy with it, actually. But yeah, so this thing, it fit the right size for what I want to throw on the rod, right? A bit more cranking power on the 200. And this caught me my first few muskie. It's still my biggest Kawartha muskie has come on this rod. So it's one of those things where, like Jesse said, it's dual purpose. Yes, it's a swim bait rod. Do I throw other things other than swim baits? Yes, I throw glide baits. I throw anything that pulls really hard. So I'll even throw like larger spinners on this, like the muskie killer and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I can throw on this rod and not be concerned about it. Really like large, like small muskie crankbaits even. I often use it as kind of a finesse muskie rod, but it's also for bass fishing is my big bait lure. So yeah, I'll be tossing some Shadzilla Juniors. Is a little heavy for it, I'll be honest, but the old hollow body ones were fantastic on this rod. They're a little bit lighter than the new solid body versions. So things like that are definitely things that I have thrown on this. But it has caught me some pretty good bass when they hit those things. Lots of decent pike. But like I said, a lot of muskie has come on this when fishing finesse muskie techniques.
Yeah. Swim bait rods are underrated. I just feel like, like we said with the flip and stick, we're like, oh, this is a heavier cover rod. And I feel like a swim bait rod, don't feel like it's just for swim baits, like Andrew said. I just view it as a big bait rod.
Yeah.
You know, if you have, like, what do you have on that 50-pound braid?
50-pound braid.
50-pound braid, or if you're not fishing around weeds, I'd put like 20-pound mono or 20-pound fluoro on that. Any big bait, like big spinner baits. I'm not talking musky size, but like big spinner baits, big spoons, big like 6-7 inch swim baits. Anything that if you put on a regular bass rod, you're like, oh, your rod bends too much. You're like, oh, that's a bit overkill. Pick up the swim bait rod and it's like a beefy bass rod.
I love fishing like a 6-inch glide bait on this thing. That's what I love having on it in the summer is getting something like that on there. Because with a reel you can chop it, but it's a long rod, but you can kind of have it choked up and sit right back underneath your arm. So even if you want to give it a couple like quick rips, like to jerking it forward and stuff, it's really comfortable because of that long rod butt on it. Mm-hmm. And then it's not sitting really that far out anymore because you have, a foot behind you.
Yeah. And you don't have to spend a ton of money to get a swim bait rod now. It used to be more of like a specialized thing, but I know that Daiwa has their Daiwa DX swim bait rods, $120, $130. Mm-hmm. I know that Kage one is a little more pricey. I think it's about $250, something like that. But I had that for years, and then I sold it to Andrew, and he used it for years because I upgraded to a Mega Bass Levante Leviathan, which is 7 foot, 10 inch, extra heavy. I wanted something with a little more balls to it, so to say, because I was chucking slightly bigger baits. And I was actually using that the other day when we fished the pike tournament. And even though it's an extra heavy power rod, it can still chuck smaller stuff. And by smaller stuff, I mean, you can still chuck 1 ounce things on it. Like I was chucking a 1 ounce Megabass Canada jerkbait, which you wouldn't normally chuck on a swim bait rod. But we're pike fishing. It handled it flawlessly. I caught pike on it. It's a versatile rod. Anything big, you can chuck on that rod. It's a great rod. And it's definitely a specialty rod. It's not something that, like you definitely could bring it every trip, but it's not like one of your first picks generally, But I've seen Andrew catch some fairly sizable fish on that. And I think it's mostly because he's usually chucking fairly sizable baits on that rod.
Yes, absolutely.
But I have seen you in a pinch chuck like a frog on that rod.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I have taken that because I had one of my reels go down last year and I only had that as my one bait caster, and I was going to fish some larger baits with it and use my general purpose, but my other reel broke down and I didn't feel like swapping the reels over, so I just started fishing everything on the swim bait rod that day, and it still handled everything I needed it to. yeah It's not ideal, but again, you can make things work. So yeah, I do like a swim bait rod. Another great application for a swim bait rod is they make fantastic pike rods. If you fish for northern pike and you chuck, like Andrew said, big swim baits, big spoons, spinners, stuff like that, they're great. Like we just fished that pike tournament the other day and I had my swim bait rod in my hand like 70% of the time. And it's the smaller bass rods. I'm like, like I can fish this bigger rod. It's more comfortable to hold. The handle's longer. It's less it may sound weird, but it's less fatiguing to use those big rods because they handle the bigger baits. If you're chucking a bigger bait on a smaller rod, it is very tiring. These big rods they handle the bait better and they cast easier and you don't chot your shoulder. The long handle gives the leverage too. So you have your pivot point in this hand and you grab the rod butt and you just pull down with it. And it gets all the momentum going nice and easy without having to just use your wrist trying to get it forward of your shoulder. So it is way more ergonomic for that. Even on that thing, you give a 5/8 jig head and a 5-inch paddle tail on the back of that thing. 100%, I want to throw it on that rod rather than something else, because I just know that I can easily toss that as far as I want all day long without worry. And then anything bigger than that, I know it can handle as well. So it's something where if I'm fishing like for bass, it's not an overpowered rod to have in the boat, because I can still fish a paddle tail. I can fish chatterbait. I can fish especially a big blade, a heavier one. No worries on that thing. It'll actually still load up on a cast fishing that stuff.
Yeah. And you may think, because I've recommended this before, and it really depends what you want to do. You may think, well, multi-species wise, it makes more sense to me to get a musky rod than a swimbait rod. And I agree with that. If you are someone that's like, you know what, I'm going to fish for pike and big musky, it might make sense to get a medium heavy musky rod over a heavy bait casting swimbait rod, because musky power rods are different than bass power rods. So you may think, oh, Andrews has a heavy power swimbait rod. A medium heavy musky rod is much heavier than that.
Yes.
But similar. So if you want to incorporate fishing musky as opposed to fishing just say bass and pike, maybe getting a musky rod might be a little more versatile for you. Musky rods are generally bigger, like the handles are thicker. They have double-footed guides all the way up. They're a bit more tough. They may be a lot more heavy. A swimbait rod is more like refined, has smaller guides, lighter. So just decide which one you want to do. But a swimbait rod is great. You can catch so many fish on it. I wouldn't use it for sunfish though, Andrew.
Yes. No. But with that being said too, to target musky, it's not so much fighting the fish that rod will have a struggle with at all. It's the baits that you'd want to use perhaps going for musky that you'd want a musky rod for. Like you're not going to be chucking a double bucktail on that thing.
No.
But if you just want to fish, like a musky killer or something like that, a Mepps musky killer, or the big size Panther Martin, that will have no issue casting that and also fighting a fish. Maybe not a 50-incher, but if you're out in the Kawarthas and you're catching some 35s up to 40 range like that rod does handle that, fighting that fish perfectly fine. You just can't cast musky lures with it, like a 6-ounce Shadzilla or stuff like that.
Send it. But again, if you are musky fishing, definitely use musky gear, because the fight will be a lot shorter than using light gear. But yeah, definitely doable. So anyway, then my last combo it's kind of like a similar combo, but a spinning version. And you may think, oh, Jesse's using a spinning rod. He hates spinning. I do. I hate spinning. No, I don't. I just prefer bait casting. But I remember I was packing up some rods for a trip, and it was to fish up in Zone 11 for the early smallest season. And I actually had one bait casting rod or 2 bait casting rods and 3 spinning rods. And someone commented on our Instagram. They were like, wow, Jesse has spinning combos. I was like, yes, I do have them. I just never use them. But this is one spinning combo that is such a weird combo. I recommend it if you have extra money for just some random combo. This is a weird one. I've had it for a while too. This is a 7-foot heavy power fast action spinning combo. Now, I don't know many people that own a heavy power spinning combo like a bass rod, but I picked this up. Long story short, me and Andrew have gone to this lake to fish for muskie up north. We go camping in there, and it's like backcountry. And it's a little lake and a river, and there's lots of muskie in there, but no big ones. They're all, small to medium size. And my wife was coming with me the first time, and she's like, oh, I want to go fishing. My wife doesn't really fish. So I was like, okay, I want a heavier spinning rod in case she hooks a good muskie. I don't want her to be fighting it on like a medium. So I went to the store and I bought a 7-foot heavy power fast action St. Croix Premier, which is one of my favorite rods ever. I have multiple of these. The Premiers, they're made with like a lower modulus graphite. So they are a bit heavier, but they're really strong rods. And this rod is cool because all the guides are double footed, which means that it's epoxied into the rod and wrapped on both sides of the guide all the way up. So it double footed all the way up. This rod is literally designed for like heavy lures and big fish. And it's rated to cast lures up to 1.5 ounces. So I'm like, okay, it's perfect. I actually got this paired up with a Shimano Stradic 4000. As Andrew said, the Stradics, they're a bit expensive, but I've been using Stradics for about 20 years. I have 4 or 5 of them. I've never had a problem with any of them. They're fantastic reels. We use them for carp, we use them for salmon, we use them for pike, we use them for every single thing.
And you still have your first one, right?
I still have my first white one, and then I had one that I bought used that was 10 years old before, the old Stradic with the walnut carved handle. And that still works good. And they are fantastic. They're old made in Japan reels. They're not made in Japan anymore, but they're fantastic reels. But to be fair, you can get a really good spinning reel now for $100, $150. You don't have to spend $300 on a reel. This episode isn't really about the specifics. It's about the rod actions and applications. Don't worry about the rod or the reel brand. Buy the best one you can afford. But this particular combo, again, I have a Stradic 4000. The 4000 on this is a bigger reel, but it balances this rod really nice. I have it loaded up with 30-pound braid. And we have caught so many random fish. It's just a weird combo. I've caught catfish on this rod, channel catfish. I've caught carp on this rod, big northern pike. I was using this at the pike tournament a few weeks ago. I've caught muskie on this rod. I think the coolest application that we've had in this rod is when we're trolling in the river mills for salmon. Most guys are using, 8, 9, 10-foot spinning rods, casting spoons, but we're in a canoe. I'm like, I don't need casting distance. I'm in the middle. We're just trolling behind the boat. So I started using this instead of the really long rod, and I have a heck of a time reeling the fish in with this. It is so fun. And the rod is heavy. So those kings still, they hand our butts to us when we're fishing for them with that whatever gear we're using. But this rod is nice and short, but it's still super tough. It really handles it. But it's a great rod. You can use it for so many things. I'd even used this one time. I took my father-in-law bass fishing, and he doesn't fish. So I had I had a Z-Man goat toad. It's like that rubber frog that we like using. Had it on a 4-aught EWG hook. I had 30-pound braid, and I was just like, cast this in the weeds and reel it in. You can frog fish with this rod too. It's not the best, but you can do it. It is a heavy-duty rod. It's such a weird rod, but I love it. And I feel like it's one combo that if you're a multi-purpose angler that's targeting bigger fish and you don't really like bait casting, a lot of people don't. This is a great combo. Absolutely great. 7-foot heavy power. I'm actually excited to use this again soon. Real soon, actually. But that's a weird combo, right, Andrew? You don't have a heavy power, do you?
I don't. I do want to get one just because there's sometimes, like when you're casting heavier baits, it's not as big of a deal for getting backlashes, even in somewhat windy conditions. But there are times when it's 40-kilometer gusts and you'll still get that backlash because it blows just gusts right into your face as you're mid-cast. And it's and it would just be nice on those really annoying days to be using a bait caster to have something to still be able to fish those larger baits on a spinning rod. I do want one, and especially for pike fishing and stuff like that, fishing for bigger fish. Yeah, having a spinning rod to be able to handle it as well as a bait caster can just covers your bases regardless of what conditions are. So it's definitely one I want to have.
Yeah, it's a cool rod, and again, a medium heavy spinning rod in that same fast action would be great too, but the heavy is just slightly more power, and it handles, again, we're catching 25-pound Chinook salmon in the fall. We're catching 25-pound carp on it. We're catching giant fish on this rod, and the rod's like, no problem. What do you got next? It's great.
I also want it because if I take, my wife out or my dad or something out, my dad's never caught a fish. And I think your dad was the same way too. Never caught a fish in a hollow body frog. Yeah. Didn't think they'd even work. Yeah. I'm I would love to get a rod like that just so that I can, hey Dad, let's go. I'll put a topwater frog on there for you, and you can actually catch it with this rod instead of, not be able to set the hook on a medium action spinning rod. Yeah. So that's something that I want to have as also kind of like a loaner for when I go with some friends who don't have who aren't used to casting a bait caster, but still being able to do perhaps some of those techniques.
Yeah, it's a great guest rod because you're like, I take out people all the time, and I'm like, I'm not taking out someone that I have to teach to use a bait caster to fish in shallow water with the frogs. I'm like, here's a spinning rod with a frog on it and 30-pound braid, and they get them. You may have to troll into the lily pad bed to get them out because they don't pull it out good, but it still works. Anyway, that's a lot of rods, and again, like we said, we own a lot of brands of rods. I'm just looking here at my rod rack. I mean, we have tactical fishing rods, St. Croix, tons of St. Croix, tons of Daiwa rods. I actually, for the money, I love Daiwa rods. They're so nice. I have ugly sticks here. I just actually got myself a new ugly stick this year. It was on sale at Gagnon's. It's an 8.6 medium heavy spinning rod, and I have a bait feeder reel on it. That's my hide in my car trunk carp rod after work. It's ugly stick, legit. If you fish an ugly stick, you may feel a little shame, but dude, they're great rods. They catch fish. Don't be shamed. Lots of St. Croix, Shimano, everything. G. Loomis, Fenwick, doesn't matter. Buy the best rod you like. Go to this tackle store. Feel it in your hand. Feel the rod in your hand. Put the reel that you have on it. You can, I swear, you go to the tackle shop into Gagnon's or something, walk in and be like, hey, this is my reel. I'm not stealing. Can I put this on some rods and try it? And they're like, I don't care. Put it on the rod and try it. Or maybe they have the reel in stock already that you already own. Be like, hey, can I put this reel on this rod? See how it feels? Feel it in your hand. Feel it. And sometimes you're like, oh, this is amazing. And other times you're like, I'm not feeling it. And you pick up another rod, you're like, oh, I like this. So
then look at the price tag. You're like, oh, I have to put it back.
Yeah. I always say that to Andrew when we're at Gagnon's. I'll pick up like the G Loomis NRX Plus. I'm like, hey, Andrew, do you like this? He's like, oh, this is so light. I'm like, $980. And he's like, dear God.
Here, hold this Zodius. I'm like, oh.
Not as bad. Anyway, have fun with your rods. Get some combos that are general purpose. And then after that, you can kind of go in crazy directions as to what you personally do fishing, which is great. Fishing is a great sport. You can spend way too much money. So we apologize. Me and Andrew, if we sold all of our rods right now, we could probably buy a house. Probably not in this economy. But I just want to add one thing, and Andrew will be able to talk about this a little bit, but we like trying rods, different brands, everything. We actually talked to a guy named Adam at the Sportsman Show. He owns a brand called Tooka Reel, Tooka Reel Rods, Canada. So he's out in Quebec. We were talking to him at the Sportsman Show. Super nice guy. Apparently he used to work for a big rod manufacturer, and now he makes his own rods, and they're assembled right here in Canada. So we had a good conversation with him. His rods were fantastic. We were at the show.
They were like legit. And you can tell like he has a lot of pride in his product.
Yes.
Like he wants to make sure that what he puts out is like, this is what
the best. His products were super nice. It's
they were legit.
Very
like,
JDM style
rods. Yeah.
So anyway, we talked to him and he's like, what do you think of the rods? I was like, they feel nice. I'm always skeptical, especially with new brands, right? And he's telling us how he used to work at this big company before and how now he does it himself. And every model he'd pick up and be like, oh, he was so proud of every model. He's like, design every particular blank a certain way and the handles and everything. And he's telling us, and I was like, I don't understand the crazy Einstein stuff he's telling me because it's all about like, resin forming matrices and stuff. I'm like, I don't know. So anyway, long story short, he actually did send us a rod each. So we're excited to try them out.
I did use mine actually. I already used mine.
Oh, sweet.
I was using it at the Pike tournament.
Oh, nice. And what'd you get?
I think it's a 7.1 or 7.3 medium heavy spinning. It is, I think it's extra fast action.
Yeah.
But it is so light. Like this is a proper, like, nice rod.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things. I wanted to get a medium heavy, something that I could do, like, again, fish pike for, target pike on it, target like big bass, fish a bit heavier, like cover or techniques. Even the medium heavy, like you can fish those like compact frogs and stuff on, right? Without worrying on those. But this is one of those rods where like it feels really good in your hand. I can't really describe it, but everything that this guy was talking to us about, it was, and showing us these rods at the show and stuff like that. It is, like Jesse said, it's a JDM, it's high end. He's all like, oh, like it bends here. This is designed for this. It's very specific designs that he has these rods for. But again, it's how you want to fish it. And honestly, fishing a large jerkbait on that rod was amazing. Amazing. Using like a Vision 120 or something on it. It's like, it's just glorious. And I actually had my Stradic put onto it because I was like, I'm going to put my nicest spinning wheel on here.
And like you said, they are high end, but he has rods that are very high end. Like he showed us some rods that were like titanium, minnow shaking tip rods, like $600-700.
His ruby rods look amazing. Like bright crimson red. Like they're so cool.
The rods that we got are the Archon rods, and they're about, I think they're like $150. Something like they're reasonable. Like they're not crazy expensive. We don't like buying, again, we showed you some rods that are expensive, but I'm at the point now where I realize how good rods are that are like $150 to $200. And I bought rods that are $300, $400, $500, $800, great rods, but I'm afraid to use them. So I like buying rods $150 to $200 myself personally, high performance rods. This particular rod, yeah, it's great. If you're listening to this, you can't really tell, but it
looks so good.
Really good cork, very cool looking JDM handle with like a nice metal winding check, like super nice. And it's got the blank, but the blank is unsanded, no finish on it to keep it light. And I'm looking at one thing to look at when you're looking at rods is look at all the guide wraps. Sometimes they're slightly crooked or something like that, especially on like budget rods. This one is perfect. Like I couldn't find a single flaw in it. This particular one I got is a 7'3" medium heavy extra fast jig rod. It's an extra fast, so it's super sensitive. you know me, I like flipping and fishing jigs, so I'm excited to try it out. But yeah, I think it's worthy to say, like, we're not recommending this yet because we haven't used them that much yet, but it is a brand that is assembled here in Canada, which is very hard to find for rod manufacturers these days. So we're going to keep you guys posted going forward in the future. Yeah.
And first look at it, again, I haven't landed a fish on it yet because I was fishing big bass mainly at the tournament. But I did throwing it around a bit. I am impressed with it so far. And again, it feels he does a good job of it. It feels like a very high-end rod, higher than what you're paying for.
Yeah. That rod to me, it feels like at least $100 more than it costs.
Yeah.
Which is great. And we saw him at the Sportsman Show. He had some big sale when he was there. The prices, they seem like, I was like, oh, that's actually reasonable. He also sells reels and line and all kinds of stuff that he's selling. And again, the rods are made or assembled anyway right here in Canada, which is awesome. So anyway, I'll put the link below. Check them out. It's a new brand. I'm excited. Like, we like gear, right? We buy all kinds of rods and reels all the time. Yep. This rod, though, I'm excited about because if it turns out really good and he starts getting them into some tackle shops around here and you guys can check them out, I feel like I saw a lot of people at the Sportsman Show walking around with them. He had a good sale on, but I saw like multiple people. When we went and talked to him first, his display was pretty full. And when we went back, there was like slim pickings left. He's like, oh, I want to show you this rod. Oh, it's gone. So it's definitely cool. Yeah, we'll keep you posted on that. We're going to do some more videos. Also, I'd like to mention, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm trying my best to grow. YouTube is very slow to grow. We're going to actually start doing not weekly, but like regular vlogs. It's going to be videos of like our everyday life. Like we have a video, it should be up by now, where Andrew got a new trolling motor. We're really excited about that. So the vlog is like us. It's just us doing regular everyday angler things. Definitely check it out. It would mean so much to us because you know how much it costs to subscribe to a YouTube channel, Andrew?
I gotta say, it's got to be at least free.
It's free. Just do it, people. You'll make me happy. Also, if you haven't subscribed yet to us on Instagram, follow us on Instagram. We have a goal to reach a certain amount of followers by the end of the year because the more followers that we get, the bigger sponsors we can get for the podcast because they ask us for all that stuff. Like, oh, how much podcast stuff you have? Also, tell us your social media, blah, 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 blah. That's all they want to hear.
Boardroom talk. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, send us your analytics. Anyway. So again, in this order, go to our YouTube. I'm going to put the link below. All you have to do is press subscribe. That's it. Go to our Instagram. I'll put the link in the bio. Press follow. That's it. And when you see our posts on Instagram, like it and comment and be like, so cool. Andrew's the best. Jesse's okay.
Or if we do something in the video that you find stupid, funny, or reminds you of someone else, send it to that other fool and be like, hey, check this guy out. You do just as dumb things as he does.
Anyway, appreciate it. We appreciate everyone that supports us on Patreon as well. Become a free member on Patreon because that's what all the cool kids are doing. I'll leave the link below. And before we end this episode, we have some interesting news that I'm not going to leak yet, but we have a very, 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 very awesome guest coming up. Mm-hmm. We've hit them all, man. Like we had legit Dave Mercer, Fishing Canada show guys, Jay Siemens. There's only one guy on top of there. And if you guessed,
yeah.
You are so right. But anyway, before we end this episode, we have, as tradition states, the quote of the week. And to handle that, we have the man with the headphones and the microphone.
Well, in true traditional style, I forgot about that.
Nice.
So I'm going to say, if you can buy one rod, buy one rod. But if you can buy 50 like us, join the club.